and living in an inspirational landscape. Because at the heart of this landscape is truly, truly inspirational. How can we make the experience of coming to the Highlands and Islands the best in the world? And you know what I'm talking about, don't you? We sometimes fall down on hospitality. How can we create something that is so good that everyone who comes here goes away and talks about it to everyone else? We can become a magnet. We can do this quite fast. This doesn't have to take years. This can happen fairly quickly. And the great thing about digital connectivity is that when people have an experience now, this experience is told to all their friends immediately, in photographs, in film, in words. It's a fantastic opportunity. And I am thinking myself of moving to Highlands and Islands. I know this will scare the pants off you, but it's because I just see, something that is fresh, it's fertile, it's got all these attributes that are very much of the present and the future. And I know space travel is one of your aspirations. Who's Mr. Space? You're Mr. Space. Because Richard Branson thinks a lot about Scotland, doesn't he? Yes, he does. I know in private conversations that he's had, that Richard Branson thinks Scotland is the future. He thinks Edinburgh is the city of the future, and he thinks Scotland is this fertile landscape. That's why Virgin Money is in Edinburgh, why the chief executive of Virgin Money, also a woman, is based in Edinburgh. The opportunities are huge, huge. And before the world of big city investors comes to the Highlands and Islands, make sure that you grasp the opportunity to have every one of your managed businesses think about how far they can go, how much better they can be, that there is no limit. And it's not about just making more money. But if we do make more money, that goes back into the community in some way or other. Let's make this the most attractive place in the world to live. Not just aesthetically, which it already is, but also in terms of the culture, in terms of the ambition, in terms of the tolerance we have towards people. We talk about immigration in a positive way, don't we? We don't think of it as a negative, because we want young, talented people. We want older, talented people also to come. So I'm almost at retirement age. What was that? You've been mischievous. I've still got time. I've still got time. Can you believe that? That is really exciting. Because I was doing a TED talk a couple of weeks ago, and I said to someone, have I still got time? She says, no, you're 20 minutes over. What? But, I look around this room, and I don't just see, people who work in an organization. I see leaders. I see persuaders. I see people who are inspirers. I see people who are motivators, as very, very clever strategists. Strategy is a word that I don't like. And I'll tell you why. Can you imagine if Martin Luther King had stood on the Mount in Washington all those years and say, I have a strategic plan, how the course of history. Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I like the idea of dreams and imagine. There's a language which inspires people, and there's a language which excludes them. So when we say we've got a social inclusion policy, you run the risk of people saying, I'm socially excluded. So actually you're sending out a signal which in some ways is a positive, because you're saying, we care, we want to include you, but on the other side it's saying to people, you're outside, you're excluded. And I believe in a community that doesn't exclude anyone, because there are opportunities for every child growing up in this region. And every child has the appetite to succeed in the world. Every child is ambitious. Because if you talk to a small child and ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they will come up with some big answers, won't they? They will say, I'm going to be a top criminal lawyer. They don't just say, I'm going to be a lawyer. It's going to be a top criminal lawyer. When you get them in secondary school, something happens. Am I right? Something happens. I used to want to be a lawyer, they would say. Or, I don't know anymore. But if we want them to believe that this region, this part of the world, is full of opportunity for them, it's not simply about the jobs that are available. It's about what they can do to contribute to that. What can we do in terms of social enterprise? I think Scotland's the social enterprise capital of the world, isn't it? We really are leading on this. And there are so many things. Do you know this guy, Josh, who has set up Social Bites in Edinburgh? Yeah? It's fantastic, isn't it? For those that don't know, Social Bites, it would have been fantastic for me when I was 15 and 16 and 17, is a place, it's a sandwich shop, it's now extending it down south. They've got a Michelin star chef, he's employed, and he employs homeless people as baristas, as people who serve in his shop. And it's fantastic when you go in there and you see these people who've been homeless and they've now got a job, they've got a sense of responsibility. They've been given a chance. And it's remarkable seeing how much energy they've got. This idea is now extending down south. And do you know how he started it off? Because I was at the event that inspired him. And it was a guy called Professor Muhammad Yunus. Have you heard of Professor Muhammad Yunus? He's a Nobel Prize winner. And he set up the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. And he went to all of the banks, the conventional banks. And he said, I've got this idea. I want to give microloans to women. Now, why would you give loans to women in Bangladesh and not men? I think you probably know the answer, don't you? Because women will create something, and men will merely preserve the status quo. That was the belief, and it probably is absolutely true. So we created this microfinance. All the banks said, no, you'll never get your money back. His repayment rate is 98%. None of the banks in the world that refused them and told him he was daft achieve anything like that in repayment rate. And he has helped to turn the economy around in Bangladesh by giving small loans, by giving people a sense that they've got the ability, even, to cultivate a small bit of land. And then he started giving the loans with some caveats to try and turn the health round. So, for example, child blindness, which was a huge issue in Bangladesh, has been almost cured. Because he went to Danone, the yogurt producers, the French yogurt producers, I want you to produce a yogurt which I can sell very, very cheaply in Bangladesh. And I want you to put these nutrients in, because these are the nutrients that will help to cure child blindness. Danone said, wow, that's a challenge, but we'll do it. That's a great piece of collaboration. Child blindness has almost been eradicated. The final thing I want to talk about is this business of collaboration and partnership. I was in Ontario a couple of years ago, and this guy who heads up the cultural strategy said, we bring in organizations to work together, to come up with new ideas and to create, 1 + 1 = 3 synergies. But he said what they do is they come in and they sit around and they represent their organization rather than representing their vision. So he said, what we do is we say to them, if you've come to represent your organization, we don't want you here. We want you to come here and lead ideas, to lead us to this vision. Focus on where we want to be. And I'll give a great example of collaboration, one that really makes me feel good about myself and the world, right? Children. Who designs children's playgrounds? It is adults, yeah. Well, in America, in this one area, they asked children to design the playground. What do children do when you ask them to design something? They get right down to it, don't they? They don't say, where's the budget coming from? Or we've got a resource issue here. Or we need 200 GSM paper and a special kind of acrylic paint before we can start. And by the way, it's 4:45, so we're going to put this off till tomorrow morning. Children don't do that. They get down to it straight away. And they design this beautiful playground in bright colours. And they had a professional designer come in, and negotiate with them about the finished design. And the professional designer said, actually, it's lovely. All I would do is perhaps move some things around, just for spatial safety reasons. He said, for example, if you're coming down this amazing chute that you've drawn, you don't want someone on a swing bumping into them. The children says, actually, we do. But he stayed true to the children's design. And then they brought engineering students in from the local college. This is collaboration. And they asked them if they could add value to this playground. And the result is, every time a child uses the playground, using kinetic energy, they're generating electricity for the local community. That's collaboration. Because one partner couldn't have done it on their own. Two partners would have created something, but not quite the finished product. But three partners working together, all with the determination to follow the children's desire for a playground that looks and feels fantastic, actually is something that's really highly productive. So that's creativity, and it's also collaboration. There is no situation which cannot be helped by just talking to someone outside your own sphere of activity and asking them. And it's extraordinary. In a hospital in Montreal, they brought in Disney. It's a children's hospital. They brought in Disney and said, what has Disney got to do with hospitals? Let me tell you. Disney looked at the experience of the child from the minute they walked in. Well, some of them didn't walk into the hospital, let's be honest. Some of them were stretched in. Anxiety, high levels of anxiety. And Disney thought, how can we reduce the anxiety? Because they put them in a bed and the child sits there rigid. Even if his mum and dad are there, the child is in an alien environment and it feels totally divorced from its comfort zone. So they put in a digital screen at the bottom and they filmed the child's bedroom. And they went down round the house and showed all these familiar parts of the home. And they put it at the bottom of this child's bed. And they found their anxiety reduced immediately. They found that they were able to work on the clinical parts of the treatment much, much quicker. But then they also realized that all these instruments that doctors and nurses use were a threat to children. So they created an animation with a syringe as a wand, and so on and so forth. So all these deadly, serious, threatening-looking instruments turned into beautiful animated characters, friendly characters. And they found that they reduced the child's stay in hospital quite dramatically. They improved the recovery time quite dramatically, just by thinking things through and looking at it from the point of view of the child, rather than the point of view of the hospital and the clinicians. But then they went to the burns unit, where they had really serious children in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, horrible, horrible burns. And they found that by showing in a circular screen, surrounding the beds, pictures of the polar ice caps, it actually reduced the pain and improved the recovery time. Now that's creativity. That's imagination. And who would have thought Disney would contribute to improvement of clinical outcomes in a hospital? That's the opportunity that faces us. How can we make the experience of coming to this part of the world one that creates memories that will last for a lifetime, creates photographs, creates moments, stories that will go all around the world? The opportunities are vast. We've got natural resources. Someone mentioned natural resources. I mean, this area is so rich with natural resources. It's staggering. It's astounding. So that is part of the experience. But there's so much we can do around that. So many business opportunities. So many opportunities for young people when they leave school to have the leadership skills and the imagination and the belief to grasp those opportunities. And we need to support them. We need to give them that belief. You have done an amazing job in the last 50 years. And I want to say, first of all, congratulations for what you've achieved, because it is astounding. I remember travelling on the train between Edinburgh and Glasgow with Willie Rowe. He was once your chairman, wasn't he? And Willie talked so excitedly about what's happening in the Highlands and Islands. And he was met with that kind of central built, oh aye. But now we see what he was talking about. This is a demonstration of something that should be shouted from the rooftops. It should be shouted from the rooftops, not just the opportunities that exist around the Highlands and Islands, of which there are innumerable. And I know there are areas where there's still developments to be done, all right? That is where we need to start lifting people's belief in those areas and looking at, creatively, what kind of opportunities. Bring in people who have ridiculous ideas and run them past local people. Lead those partnerships. Don't just try and come to consensus. Consensus is a fantastic thing, but in my experience, consensus only happens when there's good leadership. It sounds really bizarre, doesn't it? But you are in a position to lead those partnerships. You're in a position to be the inspiration, to be the facilitator, to be the cultivator of ideas, of beliefs, of the future. I think that what you're looking at in the next 10 years is the biggest revolution in Scotland's history. I really believe that. And you are in control of that. You are the inspiration. You are the people that will make it happen. And I commend you to go from this conference tomorrow. I'm going to stay tonight at Diane Works for dinner. I thought I was going to have to go back, so you're going to have to put up with me tonight, but I'd love to talk to more and more of you. If you want to bounce ideas off me, if you want to ask for ideas, please do it any time tonight, because I am really enthused, and I hope you're as enthused as I am about what the future holds. Are you? On a scale of 1 to 5, how excited are you by the future? Yeah. If this is 5, would you want me over to the extreme right? No, perhaps you should. Yeah. Do you want me in the Nigel Farage position? Or the extreme left SNP radical socialists who want to disrupt everything? Oh, yeah, it's there. I hope you're not taking the piss. Right. That's fantastic. Is that only 2 people? Come on. Yeah. 10. Have some of you dropped your mobile phones? Oh, that's better, yes. Do you know why I asked that question? Because you should be. And I know that, everyone in work has frustrations. Everyone in work has, relationship issues. But actually, if you focus on the vision, on where you can be, and find solutions to those little frustrations that you might have on a daily basis, find solutions, get them out the road, because the real prize is in achieving what you can achieve over the next few years. I cannot imagine any part of this country, and I was in Manchester last week, where Manchester is being given this devolution, this city region devolution, and they're excited. But there's also a cynicism around Manchester about this. And there was one thing that came out of that conference and one the next day in Leeds, is that a lot of people I spoke to said they wanted to align themselves with what's happening north of the border, not to the south. What does that tell you about how people perceive what's happening in Scotland? It tells you a lot, doesn't it? And all across the world, I pick up and I communicate with people on a regular basis, sometimes in the middle of the night, because I'm not married, and I lead very antisocial hours. And there's a huge interest in Scotland just now. And I'll just finish with an Indian gentleman who I met on the train coming up from Edinburgh yesterday, who turned out, and I've now passed his email and telephone number over to HIE. He is the project director of finance for Taj Hotels. Taj Hotels have got the Pierre Hotel in Central Park in New York, really, really top-notch hotels. And when he was coming to Britain, he was advised to go to London for 2 days Edinburgh for 3 days and come to the Highlands, to Inverness for 4 days. I think that's really positive, isn't it? And he was asking my advice. And he's going on a trip today to Skye. So get this guy, because he says... Are you? Oh, brilliant. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. That is the opportunity. People love what you have here. Not everyone knows about it. Not everyone's experienced it. But let's make sure that everyone experiences it, but always experiences with this positive hat on. Because, yes, we've got challenges, but those challenges are just there to be battered away. And it's not about budgets. Well, it's something about budgets. But so much of it is the spirit that we engender around us in the workplace and outside the workplace. Thank you very much.